Colorado just lost one of its best transfers, and it's the NCAA's fault. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the business. We are going to be talking about Ezra Christensen. He was my favorite transfer. I talked about him from the moment the portal opened. He is no longer able to play college football next year or ever again because the NCAA is the NCAA. We're going to talk about the schedule release because that came out yesterday. And then I'm going to go over some of the departures from Colorado and highlight the three that I think are the biggest impacts or the biggest losses, if you will. So let's start off with Ezra Christensen. If you guys weren't familiar, New Mexico State defensive line transfer that, quite frankly, I've been saying it. I would imagine if you go back to at least December-ish, you'll hear me talking about him because he was a guy that I was so excited for. And when Colorado got him, I was like, okay, this is quietly one of the biggest wins in the portal because he had every program under the sun coming after him. Like he had Notre Dame was offering him. I think he had Auburn offers. It was Auburn, Baylor, Kentucky, Notre Dame, UCF, Washington, Wisconsin, just every program wanted him. And Colorado got him. Undersized defensive lineman at 6'2", 260, but this past season for New Mexico State, 42 total tackles, 6 sacks, a forced fumble, and was one of the highest graded defensive linemen in college football. And I mean, just a really versatile player, could literally line up all across the defensive line. He was someone who I penciled in as an instant starter for Colorado. Didn't matter where because I knew he was that good. And it was reported last night by Brian Howell that he is no longer eligible. And that's because he didn't get the waiver required by the NCAA. And so for those not familiar with Ezra's journey, he starts his career off at, he's a San Diego native. So starts his career off at San Diego Mesa College, which is in San Diego. To JUCO. First team all conference, first team all region, goes to Fresno State, plays there for 2 seasons, then transfers to New Mexico State, where he was this past year. And there is this ongoing lawsuit between a lot of players, junior college players, and the NCAA saying that their junior college years should not count against them in terms of their eligibility at the FBS, FCS, D1 level, essentially. And so they are a lot of like Diego Pavia, Joey Aguilar, both quarterbacks residing in the state of Tennessee. They are going after a waiver like this. Trinidad Chambliss, he is also going after a waiver. It's a little bit of a different scenario because he is coming from the D2 level, but he is applying for a hardship waiver because he missed a season or didn't play one season because he had an illness or something, even though I don't think he was going to play. I don't know. I'm not sure what his standing was at Ferris State. I just know that he is also applying for a waiver. And quite frankly, I think the NCAA, one, they're setting precedent that like no JUCO guys are getting to come back. And if that's the case, Pavia, Aguilar, go hop in the NFL draft and get out, right? I'm going to be livid if the NCAA just goes case by case, right? There is no, like, if one guy can't get eligibility because he was at a JUCO, then none of them should, right? That's how this goes. You can't just pick and choose like, oh, well, Diego Pavia, I mean, he's a good story. The lawyers in Tennessee were able to fight this case better because that's really what it's going to come down to. Like we're seeing the NCAA just kind of get their butts kicked in every court of law that they enter. And we're going to see it again with Darian Mensah going to Miami eventually. If you are able to outsue or outlawyer the NCAA, you are going to get whatever you want. And so this tells me that right now, every case is a case-to-case basis, which isn't fair. That is not what this is about. Quite frankly, the NCAA should cast a broad ruling. And like if Ezra Christensen is ineligible because he played at the JUCO level and he's out of eligibility because he had X amount of years to play whatever, then so be it. Fine. I guess that's how the cookie crumbles. But if Ezra Christensen is ineligible, but Diego Pavia is back for year 25 of college football, what does that tell us, right? It tells us that the lawyers in Nashville or in Tennessee, whatever, were able to outwit the NCAA better than whatever lawyers or representation Ezra had, which isn't fair. That's just not what this should come down to. And yesterday he responded to a fan who posted, "I was so excited for my demon Ezra to be a Colorado Buffalo. Would have been defensive tackle number 1." And then Ezra wrote back, "Never had a fair shot. God's good though." And I like the sentiment. I do like his ability to just sort of as I just blasted my knee on my desk. I do like his ability to stay positive in this situation. But if I'm the NCAA, I'm announcing this widespread. I'm making a widespread announcement, going, you know what? If you played at the JUCO level for X amount of years, you're not eligible. I'm sorry. We wish it didn't have to go that way, but the NCAA needs to grow a pair. We'll just put it that way, and make a widespread decision. Like, who cares if you're going to get sued? You're going to get sued either way. And I think that JUCO year should count against your eligibility at the next year? I don't know. I would say probably not, because at the end of the day, JUCO football is essentially, to a lesser degree, prep school in a way. Like, if you take a grad year at IMG, that doesn't count against your extra year of eligibility, right? No. So JUCO, although it is a level of college football, it is not the same level. It's not even close to being the same level. So why are we counted against them? I know that's how the rules used to be, but I think it's ridiculous. I think Ezra and all these JUCO guys, assuming that they're not racking it up for year 8 or whatever, like, they should all get a chance. Now, since they didn't give Ezra a chance, I don't want to see any of the other guys get a chance, right? That's just how it goes. Like, if it's like this for one guy, it should be like this for all the guys. And I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but that's my stance on the matter, because I think if you're going to set a precedent and not allow certain guys to play because they had a JUCO year or JUCO years, then that's how it should be for everyone. And I think at the end of the day, the NCAA just needs to hurry up and get to that point where it's like, okay, you have 5 years to play 5, 5 years to play 5, right? You have 5 seasons to play, or 4 seasons, whatever, 5 to play 4, I think is what it is. But either way, you know what I mean, where you have 5 years, there's no red shirt, like, just get to that, right? The NCAA needs to quit messing around. They're quite literally the most useless, I would say, entity in sports at the moment. I think everyone's favorite holiday will be when the NCAA is abolished and no longer overseeing college football, because they quite literally have no clue what they're doing. They have no control over anything, right? There's going to be guys who, like we got pro basketball players coming back in college basketball. Like, oh, this guy was drafted to the NBA and played in the summer league. And like, oh, he played for FC Barcelona, but he didn't sign an NBA contract. So welcome back to Baylor. Or like, oh, Kyrie Walker has been a pro since 2020. He declared that he was a pro. He was going to the NBA. He didn't make it, but hey, welcome back, Kyrie Walker. Can't wait to see what you do for whatever college you play for. Like, the NCAA is a mess, and this is just a prime example of that. We're going to take a quick break. When we do, we're going to talk about Colorado's schedule. It was released yesterday, and I think the Buffs got a tough year ahead of them schedule-wise in 2026. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms, and they work to get you every deduction possible. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I need to tell you guys about the Everydayer Club. If you're not familiar, it's a Discord that I'm starting. We're doing this. All of us are doing it across Locked On, and I think it's a really cool idea. It's a chance for you guys to really talk to me one-on-one. I know sometimes I try to comment back as much as I can, but I don't always see all of the comments. And if you go to Locked On Buffs, or the link is below, we're having a Discord, right? I'll share all the information that I know possible. Like right now, if you want to know the new safeties coach, based on what I've been told, it's in there. So Colorado's new safeties coach has been announced, at least to some people, and I've said it in there, and I'm interested to see what your guys' reaction to it. But if you go to lockedonbuffs.supercast.com, you can sign up. Really cool little group of people that we're trying to get going in there. And also, if you're listening to the show ad free, you don't have to listen to a single ad, which I know like sometimes we're in a rush and it's like I want to get to work, and even 2 minutes of something could really derail my morning. So ad free, join a Discord so we can talk all things Buffs. It'll be really cool. Let's talk Colorado's schedule. The schedule has been announced, and quite frankly, I don't think Colorado did themselves any favors, and I don't know if the Big 12 did them any favors. Like, let's just put it that way. I think Colorado is going to have I don't think Colorado's going to have an easy time next year. And what I mean by this is they just have a lot of road games, and they also have to play a couple of the best teams in the Big 12, but I do think that they're going to be a lot better next year. So we will just have to wait and see. I'm trying to, let's see, here's the schedule. I'm going to get it pulled up on the screen for you guys so that way we can all look at it and gawk at it together. So I think Colorado really set themselves up for a challenging year, right, with their non-conference schedule. But honestly, I look at this and I think it's pretty manageable, I would say, at times, right? I think in a perfect world, Colorado's starting off 4-0. Like, that's how confident I am in this team. Now, that October stretch is where I think we'll just define the season. I think that's where things could either go really right or really wrong. I think Colorado needs to split. They got to go 2-2 at this point. But for those of you listening, Georgia Tech at Georgia Tech in Atlanta, week 1. You're going to be probably facing off against Alberto Mendoza, which is the youngest the younger brother of Fernando Mendoza, who just obviously won the Heisman and all that jazz for Indiana, led them to a title. He's the younger brother, the little brother, not that little. He's more of a dual threat guy. I think he's pretty solid from what I've seen of him. So that'll be an interesting matchup at Georgia Tech. Then you come back to Boulder and you host Weber State. Weber, I mean, you should blast them by 60. So I think both very winnable games. You head to Northwestern. Northwestern is, I think, a beatable team. I think Colorado should beat them. Now, I do think that they're going to be better. I'm not going to lie to you. I think they have a good coach and they got a good quarterback in the portal. But Northwestern, to me, is beatable. The only thing that gives me a little bit of concern is that it's on the road. Same thing with Georgia Tech. Like, any road game, I'm just like, ooh. Then September 26th, this will be Colorado's first Big 12 test of the year. They get Baylor, and this Baylor team just got DJ Lagway. So we'll see if he's able to revitalize the program. I think that's sort of oh, here we go. Let me just not be that big on the screen. But I think with Baylor, like there's this kind of this concern or this worry, I would say, for most programs on the Big 12, like, hey, maybe they are just a good quarterback away from being back to what they were. And I don't know if that's the case, but we will have to wait and see. I'm still not confident in Dave Aranda. And so that's what it comes down to for me is like, do I think Dave Aranda is good enough to not mismanage DJ Lagway? Absolutely not. So we also have, after that, you go from Baylor, then Texas Tech comes to town. Now, Texas Tech, probably the best team in the Big 12 for the next few years, right? They have a lot of money. They're spending it. They have Brennan Sorsby at quarterback. They have a revamped defensive line, so that'll be interesting to see there. That to me would be Colorado's first loss. Utah, this is another tough game. I think you're glad that you get both these teams at home, so that way you don't have to play in their tough environments. Utah, good team with Devin Dampier coming back, but they did lose Kyle Whittingham, the head coach. They did lose John Henry Daly, who led the country in sacks. They lost Smith Snowden, who's also at Michigan. Kyle Whittingham went to Michigan, by the way. They lost all these guys to Michigan. And so it's like, is Utah going to be good, or are they going to be a shell of their former selves? Because you look at the transfer portal class, I'm not impressed. I think Utah could take a huge step back next year, and Colorado could easily beat them, I think. At Oklahoma State's an interesting one. We all know Oklahoma State was the program that Colorado dropped like 70 on last year. They were terrible this year, but a lot of people, they're already being picked to make the playoff. They are picked to be this year's Indiana, if you will, where Eric Morris from North Texas is the new head coach. He brings in Drew Mestemaker, and he brings in their running back. His name is slipping my mind, but he was one of the best running backs in the country. I think he was the number 1 running back in the portal. They're just bringing in everybody from North Texas. They're going to have that culture, and then they're complementing them quite well through the portal. So it's like, are they going to be Indiana 2.0, where like Indiana brought in all the JMU guys? And so there's that. I think it'll be a tough game because it's on the road. I think that's winnable, though. So right now, I think Colorado, at best, through their first 6 games, is 5-1. Right. I think that is in the realm of possibility. Kansas State, new head coach. I wasn't impressed with them last year. I'm not impressed with Avery Johnson. I think with Colin Klein calling plays, I think they will be better or could be better, but we'll see. After that, sorry, I got a weird notification that someone was at my front door, but I have this stray cat that always comes to my front door, and his name's Frederick. Well, I've named him Frederick, and he just stares at me through my window and never lets me like pet him, but he's there. But it was Frederick, so no worries. I'm not being attacked. Okay, after Kansas State, you go to Arizona State. So you're going to see Omarion Miller. You're going to see Cutter Boley, the new revamped Arizona State. I think Arizona State's going to be a sleeper team. I don't know if they're going to be a contender, but it wouldn't shock me if they like strung together a 9-10 win season. Like, I don't know if they're going to be a playoff contender, but they'll be up there in wins. Houston is probably going to open the year as like the 3rd best team in the Big 12. I would say it's probably Texas Tech, BYU, Houston. I liked what they did this past year. I think Colorado should have beaten them or had a chance to beat them. Don't get me started on the quarterback situation in that game. It was what it was. I understood why you went to Ryan Staub, but I also think you may have cost yourself a win or two, but Colorado could have won that game. Cincinnati, I think that's a win. I don't really know what I just don't feel like Cincinnati was ready for the portal exodus that they were going to sort of have. And then lastly, UCF. I think Scott Frost is probably a year away from being a year away. And I think Colorado could win that game. And so if I'm giving you a bold schedule prediction on January 22nd, I'd go win at Georgia Tech, win at against Weber, win at Northwestern, win at Baylor, lost to Texas Tech. I think they upset Utah. I think they beat Oklahoma State. And I think we'll go lose Kansas State here. You're at 2 losses. So you're sitting at 1, 2, 3, 4-0, 4-1, 5-1, 5-2 with this one, right? Yeah, I had to count again. 5-2. I think Arizona State gets you, so you're 5-3. Actually, we'll ignore the Kansas State win. Arizona State's where the loss comes in. Houston is, I think, a loss probably, and then Cincinnati and UCF are wins. So I think losses to Tech, Arizona State, and who else am I missing? Yeah, I think that's it. Arizona State, maybe Kansas State, maybe Houston. So I think 3 losses. I think 8-4, 9-3 is very much on the table for Colorado, assuming they add a few more pieces across the defensive line. I like what they did with the offense. I like what they did with the defense in general. And I think this is going to be a really, really big year for Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes. So I'm thinking 9-3, 8-4 in that range. Anything below that, like if they go 7-5, I think that'd be a step up, but I would say that'd probably be a little underwhelming. Same thing with 6-6. If they're sub 500, it's going to be a problem in Boulder. I can tell you that. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Who do you think Colorado beats? Who do you think they lose to? What is your final record prediction? Or not your final, but your initial record prediction for the Colorado Buffaloes? Because it's a long ways away, but why not try to predict the future? We all are great at it, right? That's what we all tell ourselves. When we come back, I'm going to tell you guys the latest on where Colorado's transfer portal departures have gone and who I think the 3 biggest losses are. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. We're over 8,000 subscribers. We're going to have some really fun guests on. Dukes of Scoops is coming on. Jay, who does some work with Dukes as well, is also going to come on and talk to us about an Oklahoma transfer tomorrow. So it'll be cool. I don't think you guys are going to want to miss it. We're going to have some fun guests. I did an interview with Nate Mitchell last week. Great time talking to him. Just a really insightful, really fun energy guy. So excited for what's to come for the Locked On Buffs, and I think you guys will be as too. Okay, let's talk transfer portal departures. The latest guy to find a new home is Sam Okunlola. He's going to Virginia Tech. He's going to go play for former Penn State head coach James Franklin. I would say I'm disappointed with how the Okunlola sort of tenure went, because I would put, and this would be an interesting case study, but Colorado has repeatedly gotten transfers from a handful of programs where they just do not work out. And I would say Pitt is one of them, right? You got Deion Hayes and Samuel Okunlola. I don't say either of those guys worked out. Florida State, I don't think Colorado really. Hakeem Williams has the best chance to be the best Florida State transfer that Colorado got. So take that how you will, right? You got Bishop Thomas, you got Brendan Gant and Travis J, and I'm missing someone. I just know it, but like Florida State has not been nice to Colorado, to say the least. And then Alabama as well, Jaheim Otis, Jaquez Robinson, like you're just missing there. So let's talk about the three biggest departures. For one, I think you have to really just look at, and I'm going to package them together because they're a young duo. London Merritt and Alex McPherson. I thought those guys would sort of be the pass rushers for the next 2-3 years for Colorado, where they're just constantly getting after the quarterback. London Merritt is going to Clemson. Alex McPherson is going to Penn State. He's going to play for Matt Campbell. And then obviously London Merritt's going to be playing for Dabo. I thought losing one of them hurt. Losing both of them felt catastrophic because they had so much potential. I would have loved to see them stick around, but obviously the NIL bags came through. So those are my first. I'm counting them as one. Number two, Tawfiq Bayard. He was a leader on the defense, led by example. I think he was one of the team's leading tacklers, but he also led the team at heart. And that's not really something you can measure via stats or anything. But when you see a guy out there playing with the club on his hand, and he could have easily given up on the season, he chose not to, and instead ends up at Texas Tech. And we all know that he was apparently asking for $500K. Colorado wasn't willing to pay him $500K. And next thing you know, he is bye-bye, gone. Okay. And my final transfer portal, I guess, departure that I'm hurt by or was disappointed by, I'm going to go, and again, it's not the best players all the time, but it's the guys who I think Colorado will either have a hard time replacing or I would have liked to see them in the system. And that's Draylon Miller. I thought Draylon Miller came into his own as a running back. I thought as a wide receiver, I didn't trust his hands enough. But as a running back, I felt like he would have benefited the most in the go-go offense. And so him leaving the program and going to Baylor, so we're going to see him, I think, at week 4 or the 4th game of the season, right? Or at least Colorado's first Big 12 game. I didn't even count when the bye weeks were. But I just think that he would have been a star at running back for Colorado. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way, and Colorado lost him. But I would have liked to see what he would have done in the portal, or excuse me, in the go-go offense. He was a playmaker, physical runner, and it just felt like at times where it's like you could hand the ball to him and he would just make a play. And that's what Colorado needs. Now, they have a lot of new running backs. They brought in Richard Young from Bama, Damian Henderson and Jaquel Smith from Sac State. Then you got Micah Welch and Trackhawk coming back. And so they have an interesting running back room. It'll be interesting to see who steps up, because none of these guys they lead back in a productive running back room, right? Micah Welch was he the leading rusher? Even if he was the leading rusher, I can't think of his numbers off the top of my head. Colorado's running back room was, neutralized all year for the past 2 years. Like, they had some moments, but it wasn't anything special. Damian Henderson was the second guy at Sac State. Jaquel Smith, I think, was the third or fourth guy. Richard Young at Bama was the second or third, maybe even fourth guy. Like, they don't have a room of running backs. I think Trackhawk was the only one, and that was at Incarnate Word. And so it's like, I'm not going to take away from him, but he hasn't been proven at the P4 level. So who's going to step up? I don't know. I would have liked to see Draylon Miller run it back, but those are the three that I think are the biggest losses. You guys comment below who hurt the most. Who, when that name hit the portal, you're like, that hurts the soul. So let me know what you guys think. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. And I'll see all of you guys tomorrow with Philip Dukes and Mr. J as we talk about, can Colorado be the next Indiana?